Hi there, Kiwi Codger here. Nice to have your company for episode 32, entitled Ngāti Maru's Turn. So this episode follows on from the killing fields of Auckland. The pā of Maui Naina and Makoia have fallen. The feasting, sorting out of slaves, all the organisation involved in post-conquest have occurred. And now it's time for the Ngāpuhi hordes to move on. And their next target is Te Tōtara Pā, which is in the Thames, just south of the village, or the city of Thames. And that is occupied by the Ngāti Maru, and their chief is Te Pui. So let's just have a quick look on this map to find out where everything is. So here we have Maui Naina and Makoia right near where Panmure is. They would have come out of here. Let's switch on the route for this. They would have come out possibly, this is Browns Island here, and then they would have made their way down to the Thames. You have a feeling this would be their route. They would pick a good day to leave Auckland. The weather would be good, the tides would be right, and they would be able to cut straight across the Firth of Thames and come down the coast, hopefully somewhat undetected, and arrive at the Pā. The actual Pā itself is here, just at the end. Here's the airport, here's the town of Thames, and the actual Pā itself, the canoes would have probably come down here. I'm not exactly sure where the canoes were stationed. But here is the Pā itself. It's actually a cemetery. In fact, it's the Thames Cemetery. So they've turned the Pā into a cemetery, which means that, in fact, the Pā's condition is pretty reasonable, actually. And what we have here is the area of the Pā. We have cliffs coming down here, and pretty much very steep sloping sections here. And across here it's moderately flat and goes out to the rest of the cemetery. This would have been the barrier, the front barrier. There's about 4 acres of the Pā in here. You can see some more trenching that would have come down around here. There would have been palisading up here, probably log type palisading, and similarly along here. Not 100% sure what they would have had along here, but this is pretty much a cliff. As you can see there, it's in fact it's a lot steeper than this Google Earth shows. So let's go and have a look at the footage I took. The footage I took is pretty much around this area here. So I'm looking at the ditches here, then I come over and I have a look at some of the ditches along here. So let's go and have a look at some of those videos now. So here I am at the Te Tōtara Pā in Thames, and I'm standing near a big fosse, as you can see there, and the embankments. And I've turned this Pā into a cemetery. So the Pā site is still in good nick. And these walls I've saved. Some of the side walls are kind of gone. But overall it's about 3.5 acres of land. And this is where the Ngāpuhi came down, probably December 1822. Make that December 1821. Sent up their delegation after they couldn't storm it. They sent up their delegation of chiefs to go into a peace agreement, which they knew, the chiefs all knew what was up, apart from the poor old Ngāti Maru. We ended up giving 2 famous Marys to the Ngāpuhi, who then sailed off around that corner over there in the far distance. They sailed around past that corner, and that night, after everything had got dark, they came back and stormed the Pā. well, didn't storm the pā. Basically, no one was on duty. All the way down and around. Pretty impregnable, really. Would imagine that Ngāpuhi thought the same after 2 days of battling and decided to use skullduggery to get their way, which is what they did. There was a lot of chiefs that came up in the delegation, not Hongi. Hongi wasn't there. He'd sent these buggers to do his dirty work, and when they did, I guess he felt like he had a clear conscience. Pomare, one of the chiefs from up north, was disgusted at the whole idea, and he took off. He wasn't going to have anything to do with it. So there we go. The wonderful Te Tōtara Pā, which is where the Thames cemetery is located. So Hongi and his Ngāpuhi horde in 50 canoes come round the corner at Tararu and organise to come down for the siege or the battle of Te Tōtara. Te Pui, the chief of the Pā of Te Tōtara, he would have been in a high state of alert and also prepared the Pā for a possible siege and an attack. Now that Hongi had arrived, he knew that it was all on. The Pā probably had around about 1,000 people in there, of which they say there was only possibly 100 or 200 from the tribe of the Ngāti Maru. A lot were from other tribes and iwis. What they were doing there, I'm not sure. So all is in readiness, and within a short time the battle commences, and Ngāpuhi for the next 2 days try to take the Pā without any success. And they're starting to realise that in fact they will have no success. The one gun from Te Tōtara is keeping them somewhat at bay and not allowing them to just have free range within close range of the Pā. So a plot is hatched, some say by Turi Kutuku, Hongi's wife, Hongi's blind wife, who's a bit of a seer or a witch. Some say it was Hongi that had the idea, but basically what they do is they decide to enter into a peace treaty, a false peace treaty with Te Pui, and a delegation of chiefs is sent up to the Pā, and a truce is agreed to after all the formalities. 2 Marys are given to the Ngāpuhi as a sign of peace. Hongi does not go up in the delegation. He stays in his camp, which is at Te Amo o Tarangi, which I have no idea where that is. It's not on any modern day maps. If anyone knows where that is, please put it in the comments below. It'd be great to have a idea of that, but I assume it's somewhere around this beach. I have no idea. Anyway, when they get back to Hongi, they say, okay, you know, we've done the treacherous deed. So Hongi has all the canoes packed up, and they organise to head up and head around the coast. So they basically go up in full sight of the Pā, and once they get round the corner, they organise to come back to the beach at Tararu. And they wait there until darkness. When darkness comes, they come back, sneak up to the Pā. There's theoretically no one on duty, and the Pā is taken virtually without a shot being fired. One person, one Ngāpuhi warrior is killed in the actual assault on it. So, and of course afterwards the usual occurs. You know, people that aren't needed or aren't going to be kept for slaves are executed, and the feasting, the usual stuff. Sarah Matthews, a pioneer in Auckland in the 1840s, visited this pa in 1844, so this is like 23 years later, and again recorded that the place was full of bones, human bones and skeletons. And once a pa is used, has bloodshed to this degree, then it becomes tapu, and no one really goes near it again. And so those bones had laid there for the last 23 years. And it's nice that they turned it into a cemetery, because it's very fitting. This is the Thames cemetery, as I mentioned before. Okay, so Hongi has basically finished his campaign, this southern campaign, where he's run riot in the Waitemata. He's taken Maui Naina and Makoia and come down, and now he's taken Te Tōtara Pā. Because there's lots of people in this pa from different iwi, there's a lot of utu now that's owed towards Ngāpuhi by various hapu. And over the next 20 years, some of that will be extracted, not to the degree that it should have been. There's a number of things that we need to think about, actually, because this is basically the way the story has been handed down. But you kind of, when you start thinking about it, you're kind of thinking, hold on. You know, they entered into this peace treaty. There's no swapping of hostages, which is usual to happen. Normally you swap hostages because if you don't abide by the treaty, then you kill the hostages you take, and the other crowd kills their hostages as well. So you have a great incentive. You have people's lives that you've given to the opposition that are going to be taken if you don't maintain the treaty. So no hostages, which is quite bizarre. And the fact that there's no one on duty that night, beggars belief. You know, I mean, Maori in this situation would not trust the Ngāpuhi, and I don't know. Anyway, that's the way the story goes. And the other thing I'm thinking of is the missionaries up in the Bay of Islands. So this is in December 1821. The missionaries up in the Bay of Islands report 3 canoes arriving back from this expedition on the 19th of December. And in those 3 canoes, which are under the direction of Murawai, the chief, there are approximately 100 prisoners. So that's about 33 prisoners per canoe, plus the warriors, of course. And on the 21st of December, the rest of the canoes arrive. So the other 47 or maybe more canoes arrive back in Kerikeri, the Bay of Islands. And they are reported to have 2,000 prisoners. Now, these numbers are just staggering. When you think Ngāpuhi come down, they start marauding in the Waitemata. Maybe over that period they take 100 prisoners. Now, a small number of prisoners, like 100, would be no problem at all. And after the fall of Maui Naina and Makoia, probably the total number of prisoners that they now have is probably something in the order of 800. And maybe they'll get another 300 from Te Tōtara to make up the 2,100 that the missionaries reported just before Christmas. So my feeling is, 1,800 prisoners. Now that's a logistics nightmare. And there's no reports of, would they have brought the prisoners down to Thames, or the slaves? No. You have a feeling that they would have possibly put them on an island, maybe Brown's Island, and put a whole bunch of people, a number of their warriors to guard them, and then come on down to attack Te Tōtara. If anyone knows what happens in those situations, I'd love to know. I mean, I'm just speculating on all this stuff. But it's a lot of prisoners, man. That's a real logistics issue, feeding them, etc. Although you would have thought with Maui Naina and Makoia, they would have been ready for a siege, so the amount of food that probably was captured by Ngāpuhi at those places would have been sufficient to keep everybody alive until they got back up. Now, it's also reported what happens when the canoes got back to Kerikeri, etc. And everyone knows this is going to happen. A lot of the chiefs that might have been killed during the expedition, their wives are not going to be happy, and normally what will happen is they'll just come down to the canoes arriving back and grab some of the prisoners and captives and basically just kill them and pull them into the water and just try and vent their frustration. This is what was reported by the missionaries, so this is the usual going on, and you have a feeling that the canoes, Hongi would have stopped the canoes somewhere south of the Bay of Islands and organised the prisoners so that the expendable ones would have been in the canoes that arrived first, so that those ones would have been the ones that were killed. But the result of this southern expedition by Ngāpuhi was that Auckland became vacant, the Thames became vacant. Everybody was starting now to hear about the Ngāpuhi, and what we'll see over the next period, the next year or two, is everyone starts moving away from the coast, moving inland, where hopefully it'll take a harder effort by Ngāpuhi to get there. So Ngāpuhi get back to Bay of Islands just before Christmas. They're there for only about 5 or 6 weeks. And then they set off again. And this time they're heading down towards the Waikato to attack the Waikato tribes. Now, on this trip down to the Tōtara and Maui Naina, a lot of the hapu decided not to accompany Hongi. But after they saw all the spoils of war, the prisoners, the slaves, etc. that he brought back, everyone's on board now. And so we will cover in another episode the attack into the Waikato by Hongi. But the next episode will be on something that's a little bit different from what you're expecting. So that's pretty much it from me here for this episode. And I look forward to your company at the next one. So until then, take it easy and stay safe out there.